Captured by Women is brought to you by Yum Vita, a delicious way to grow.
Many years ago, an American politician, Joseph Gardner, once said, "The society that scorns excellence in plumbing as a humble activity and tolerates shoddiness in philosophy because it is an exalted activity will have neither good plumbing or good philosophy. Neither its pipes nor its theories will hold water." This week, one of the biggest conversations in Ghana has been around the issue of free SHS and the dual track system. I guess there's no doubt in any of our minds that education is very important for nation building. The question is, how do we implement an educational system that makes sense to our people and that is sustainable? Today on Captured by Women, we'll be interviewing the Deputy Minister of Education, who will talk to us about the details of how this dual track system will work and how parents and guardians, what they should expect in September. We'll also be asking him very basic questions about the things that have worried us, and I'm sure many of you at home who've thought about it and are wondering how is this going to be sustained. We'll be paying tribute to our former Vice President, Kwesi Emisa Arthur, who passed away and was laid to rest this weekend. We'll also have in studio to celebrate a career woman who's done excellently at innovating with a very interesting item that we see every day on our streets, but she's been able to commit to create jobs and to innovate and package it in a way that's very world-class. We'll look at the issue of food supplements. Is this something that we should be paying more attention to? Because really, with our current lifestyles, a lot of us are not able to eat properly. Do we need the supplements? And are there any disadvantages we should be mindful of? We'll briefly look at the issue of the EC chair nomination and the matters arising. You don't want to miss any part of this show. I'm here today with Nanama, and we're going to do this together. Please stick and stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, sadly, this weekend we had to lay the body of former Vice President Kwesi Emisa Arthur to rest, and there have been some issues arising out of that. This in light of the fact that Asumdwe Park was built to at least house former presidents and vice presidents, but we haven't seen that happening. But we'll talk about Kwesi Emisa Arthur. He was an economist. He worked, with the Bank of Ghana. He was a governor there. And I think most of the people who had tributes to say about him concerning workplace spoke about his Christian values. And I was very happy to hear that, because as a Christian, it's always, humbling to know that someone's life was emulating Christ, and he's gone home to a better place. And so now we don't mourn as we used to when we didn't understand the ways of Christ too well. Now we know that he's gone to a better place. We have to think about ourselves actually, but we also commiserate with a family that has lost a father, a friend, a brother, a counselor, whatever he was to them. Interestingly, I think he had a few of the traits of one of our former presidents, the late Atta Mills, in the way they were both calm and, collected. You wouldn't hear them speak much, but in their own way, they were working behind the scenes. And I think he's someone who, when the annals of history is written, he definitely would be mentioned. I think he did well for Ghana, and we wish him the best in the life after.
Yeah, and for me it's really sad. His wife is a senior Morgan, so she went to my school in Fansiman, so we're definitely mourning with her. We think about when we lose people, and I mean, for those of us who are in the public, we definitely will miss him, but the people who are most affected are his family. And there's no description for how much how painful it could be to lose a father, a husband. And I can just imagine what they're going through. We hope that, because we know that in Christ, we don't really lose our family. We will meet them again in the resurrection. We hope that they'll find some comfort. But then his passing also posed a lot of questions. I mean, this past week as well, we celebrated, or we remembered, former President Atta Mills. And the big issue was around his burial place. For the first time, I think I sort of got the inkling that whoever was to blame took responsibility. So I heard an interview where I was going to say General Mosquito.
Well, everyone seems to agree.
The General Secretary of the NDC actually said that the reason why the Asomdwe Park is in the states at which it is because they didn't put, the NDC, when they were in power, they didn't put in place any management system for it. And for me, that was sad because it's just representative of how very reactive we are to our national issues. And to think that that's the resting place of our former president and it's in such disarray, it's very worrying. And I'm hoping that we can fix it quickly, because a nation without a history is no nation.
At all.
Our children should be able to go back. We should be able to go back, because we're not that old, and go back and see that this is the resting place of Professor Atta Mills. He was who he is, what he did. There should be a story around it. I feel that we haven't paid so much attention to building the stories around which our nation is built. Right. And that's very worrying. I mean, every time we lose somebody, another thing I think about is how do we ever get into the history or the experience? Are there books that we can read about? What do we learn from their lives? I mean, Pakwesi Mr. Arthur served as a public servant, as a politician, as vice president. There's a lot to learn from his life, and I just hope that we will take a cue from the unfortunate situation with the resting place of Professor Mills and build a monument around the vice president who's just been laid to rest, so that we can remember them in a way that is worthy of what they've done. Because you spend so much time serving your nation, your memory should not be lost when you're no longer here.
And I'm looking at Asomdwe Park actually coming to work, because it's located in a very, nice place. It's easily accessible. And we're speaking about tourism. I think this is a wake-up call. If we really believe in tourism, this is where we should build that place, so people will come and even pay a token to see. As you walk through, there's, someone who will guide you through, a tour guide, and then you make it exciting. Then keeping the place will not be work, because it's something we have to do, because tourists will be coming there. It actually creates employment for other people. The place is kept. The monies we take could be used to, maintain the place. And that's not difficult to think up. So I think we should all come together. And then finally, it should become the resting place for probably all the heads of states and the vice presidents. Why not? So when you go at a glance, you can get everything, one-stop shop. And we learn our history from that. So we really do think government will take this critically. It's not about the NDC. It's not about the MPP. It's about governance and the fact that we have a history to tell. Well, we do commiserate with the family, and we pray that God will keep them. He would console them, and He would keep them through these trying times, especially when everything, the hula baloo is all over. What happens to them? Let's all remember them in our prayers, and we will say a word for them. On that note, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more here. As always, Big Bang, we go straight into the point and discuss education, the free SHS dual track system. Stay with us. So the president has named his nominee for the person of EC chairperson as Madame Jean Mensah, the head of IEA. And there have been discussions surrounding that. Also, he mentioned the nominees for the 2 deputies and also someone to replace Madame Pauline Dadzawa, who retired from service. So let's talk about that, Petra. What is your take, your personal take? Of course, for me, being a woman, hearing that a woman has been nominated, hooray! What next?
So I have a personal problem with how the former EC was removed. I feel that the reasons were not, for want of a better word, substantiated enough. The whole process of it just feels so murky for me. And I'm actually looking forward to the outcome of the case. I know Kweku Bakon has gone to the Supreme Court. Other private citizens have gone, just for the fact that I want there to be clarity on that whole issue, and for the precedent that it sets. So that's my issue on the removal. I definitely wish Jean Mensah well. Like you said, she's a woman. It's a great thing. I hope that she does well at the job. But then I'm concerned about the fact that there are now indications that she may also be politically aligned, which was the same allegation around Madame Charlotte Osei. So we just need to possibly observe. We need to have a national conversation around partisanship. The fact that everyone has a choice and we all have our leanings. But does that make someone incompetent, or does that make you unable to perform a particular task? I say the answer is a big no. And we need to be clear on that, because we're becoming too politically biased. You
With
can't
everything.
be friends with someone in another political party, and then that just makes you on their side. I mean, we need to be clear that professionalism
counts
for something. I mean, if I have a friend in NDC or an MPP and they're my friend, it doesn't mean that I can't serve in another government.
Right.
Or if I have a relative who served in a previous for a previous political party, it doesn't mean that I can't serve for another political party. We should give space for that, because it's making it so difficult for people who don't want to be tagged to get involved in public service. Because getting involved in public service isn't just politics, is not just politics, it's also public service.
Right.
And for some reason, you have to be aligned to want to serve, which is a big problem.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. I mean, the first point of call is that there's a nation that we're trying to build.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be that we have to be aligned before we can have that opportunity. And I just feel that's very saddened by the conversations around the removal of the former EC and the appointment of this new one. It's just very unfortunate.
And again, I think we had spoken about the broader consultations, which I don't think was factored into this, because
That's
now
true.
political parties are all rearing their head saying we weren't consulted. Maybe they should have considered that. But anyway, it falls on the prerogative of the president to name who he has nominated. But let's see how this unfolds. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women.
Welcome back. One of the biggest conversations that has gone on this week has been the issue of free SHS and the dual track system that is going to be introduced. To help us understand what the issues are and to answer some very basic questions that we have Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, who is the Deputy Minister of Education in charge of basic and secondary education. Dr. Educhum, welcome to the studio, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. So we've had a very interesting week. I mean, everybody has been talking about free SHS. We've had questions. I've had questions. But I'm sure the biggest question on the minds of a lot of Ghanaians would be generally, what is the dual track system and what does this system hope to solve?
Thank you. The Minister of Education, after we were given the opportunity to implement the free senior high school the first year, last year had to look at the way forward next year, the next academic year, which will happen in September. We had to always look at our projections in terms of spaces available and how many students are coming. After looking at the data, we saw that we have a good problem. The good problem is that people have bought into the vision of the president. And as a result, the private BECs that were resets that were introduced by the NDC, all of a sudden have seen a surge in the number of students. Last year, only 1,000 students sat for the reset. This year, you have 11,000 students who went in and do the reset. Then we also look at the regular students who took the BCA, and we will see a huge jump. To the extent that last year, only 468,000 students sat for the BEC, both reset and regular. And this year, we have 521,000, a hoping 13% growth. Never happened. We did our projections in terms of our students who will be eligible for enrollment. You always have to give some room. Some will not do very well. So we look at the 521, and out of that we realize that 472 will qualify to go to secondary schools and technical schools across the country. Then we also ask headmasters to tell us how many seats they have available. And realize that based on the number of students who were leaving school, who left school this year, we have 277,000 spaces. Now, until this time, until free senior high school, the standard practice has been that when schools see that the Ghana Education Service realizes that they have 277,000 seats, it was a simple proposition. They introduced what is called cutoff. So even if you have 28 and they feel like if they peg it at 28, you are going to not meet the demands, you are not going to be able to seat everyone, then what they did was that they will move the cutoff down. Maybe get 22. And with 22, everybody will come in.
Okay.
then the rest of them will be what in Ghana we call pass no way. You've passed, but you've not been placed.
Right.
And therefore, you have to fend for yourself. And invariably, the students from very disadvantaged backgrounds, they will either end up on the streets, or their parents will have to go and borrow to get them into some private school environment. And that has been the norm.
Yeah.
So we're confronted with this, that 181,000 will not go. And the government has promised that we want to absorb as many as possible. And these are students who have actually passed. So what we had to do was to look at best practices around the world and begin to look at how can we accommodate these students with the existing infrastructure.
Right.
That is what brought us to this dual track or double intake strategy, which has been practiced around the world. Wherever there's a surge in population and a surge in enrollment beyond the capacity of the facility, you look for strategies to ensure that you can accommodate all these students within the existing infrastructure. And then what you do is now look for the opportunity to build your way out of it.
Right.
So you begin to look for resources to do massive school construction, and within a period of 5 to 7 years, you've built your way out of it, everything reverts to normal, and everybody is happy. And that has been the practice around the world. So we decided that we rather do this than allow 181,000 students to sit at home. And in fact, if we decide not to go this route, it means next year, if 181 sit at home this year, next year maybe another 181, the following year maybe another or more.
Right.
And by the time you realize, you have million kids sitting at home and on the streets because we did not provide them the opportunity. So to us, when the minister, we sat down and saw that this was, we had no other option than to propose to the president that there's a way.
Right.
And the way out is we can allow every one of them to go, but we're going to do a semester system and a double intake for first year, but we are not going to interrupt the flow of learning for the final year students. Right. So they are going to do the normal term, 3 terms a year, because they have WASI ahead of them. Form 2 students will go semester, and they will have 2 semesters. They will all start at the same time and end at the same time. That is Form 2. They go a semester, which is a semester acceptable at the university, is 16 weeks. So they go 4 months non-stop. You get your 2 months break, you come back and do another straight 4 months. And then you get your 2 months break and the year has ended for you. And that is what, and because also it's 16 weeks and it's 162 days instead of 180 as it pertains in the regular system, you have to adjust the instructional day in such a way that they are getting a longer day to make up for the lost days, which is about 18 days.
Right.
So when you do that, you even have an opportunity to have more contact hours with the teachers. So the school begins at 8, you end at 4, or some school begins 7:30, you end at 3:30. You have 8-hour day, out of which 1 hour is for lunch and other things in between. And then you have 7 hours of real instructional time. And with this, you are able to offer 1,134 instructional hours, as compared to 1,080 instructional hours under the old regime. So it's a very simple system, but I can understand it's new. Anything new, people have to ask questions. And asking questions is great, because that is how I got captured here.
Exactly, and we're coming back to asking more questions, because we see you've done all the calculations and everything seems to be on track. You seem to have everything figured out. But the realities are also these things come with disadvantages or problems, challenges. And I foresee one particularly being the breaks that people are going to have. Have we thought about what these children will be doing within the break periods when they come home? Because oftentimes, even in the old system, we've had that situation where children are wandering about. Now you've got twice the amount of these children, and also because they know they're coming for a break and then they'll return to school, there's that likelihood that they may have forgotten pretty much what they have been taught in the previous semester, as we see in universities. I mean, the issue, you compare this to foreign countries, but in foreign countries they write exams per semester. But that's not what happens with our case. We may all be waiting to write the WASI, which other African countries are also writing. Have you thought about these challenges, and what are you going to put in place for these
Actually,
young
what we're doing is you take your exams at the end of the semester.
Right.
So it's not going to be wait till the end of the year that you do your exam. So the exam should be semester based.
Right.
So that is off the table. And then you begin to realize that you really, if you want to transform your education system, which we want to do, you have to give teachers the opportunity to be trained to teach differently. The reason why students lose what they've learned is the rote memorization. If you allow students to be part of the dialogue in the classrooms and there's participation, there's higher rates of retention. And that knowledge sits with you for a long time. So what we are doing now with the Ghana Education Service is begin to look at how you can provide more training to teachers about different ways of teaching and learning that ensures higher rates of retention. And not this idea of what they call chew, pour, pass, and forget. Invariably, we don't pass. It's chew, pour, fail, and forget. Because students really don't do well in this system. If you look at the test result, it tells you everything. So now we have an opportunity to do something different. We have funding to do a lot of training for teachers. We're also looking at how you build into the school calendar days that are set aside for professional development. But above all, what we've also realized that there's a need for intervention. Invariably, what happens more often than not is that our students go to school and they either sink or swim. Which means that if you know it, teachers stick to your level and you do well. If you don't know it, you are left to your own devices. You fail and they will make fun of you. At the business, they say, well, bong, and that kind of thing. No, everybody feels bad. Students do well if you have intervention programs. Wesley girls have done this very well. It's a culture that they've built.
Let me take the glory because that's my alma mater.
Take it. You guys have done very well. When students go, based on what I hear, they assess them, those who are struggling, they give them intervention, and therefore they're able to catch up. This year, for example, we sent to all our elite schools, including Wesley girls, about close to 30% of students from public. And what I've heard is that the headmistress ensured there's an assessment then done, and those students were provided intervention, and I hear they're doing very well.
Great.
But if she just sat there and said you are on your own, those students wouldn't have done well.
But that wouldn't be trivial with the new system necessarily.
So now we are offering money to schools to do this intervention.
Yes, but you know, you've painted a very clear
Mm-hmm.
picture of what our educational system has been for a very long time. We're starting this dual track system in September. I don't believe that there's a possibility of us being able to overhaul this whole learning and teaching system within.
Of course not.
Exactly. So
of course
how is what you've just painted going to solve the problem?
You asked me about the challenges, and I'm trying to tell you some of the things that we're doing that well. But the dual track system, first of all, gives opportunity to children who are otherwise not going to school.
Okay.
So that's great. It affords us the opportunity to decongest our schools.
Does it really at a particular point in time?
Yeah,
because the other issue is we realize there have been outbreaks in these schools because even with the numbers they have now, and now we're doubling them. It's just that they're coming at different times. But there's no period of fallow. There's no rest period for the structures. That's the word.
Oh, no, you are not actually doubling. You're only increasing first year by 50%. So if you take a school that has 3,000 students, what you are doing is this. The first year will have been 1,000. You are making it 1,500. You are just increasing first year by 50%. And the question that I know you have is, if 3,000
is a big number.
3,000 could not do it, how is 3,500 going to fit? And this is where double track comes to the rescue. First year, third year is going to remain 1,000. The second year will remain 1,000. The first year students, you divide them into two of 750 each. When school starts, first day of school, third year, second year, and half of first year go to school together.
Okay,
that
gives
gives
you
A. Yes, that gives you 2,750 instead of 3,000. So you have reduced enrollment at the school or the capacity of the school from 3,000, even though throughout the year you are going to educate 3,500, but you have 2,750 students there. Now, the first track A that begins, they will go to school for half semester, which is 41 days of instruction, or 2 months of calendar days. At that point, they will, Form 2 will be going. Form 2 will do straight 16 weeks.
Okay.
Form 3 will do their normal thing. So the Form 1, the first group, will do their half semester, which translates into 2 months. At that point, they will take their break. And then after the 2 month break, they come back and finish up their first semester. The other group that is at home will come back after 2 months of
when A is on a break, they would come.
They will come. When they come, they will stay there for 16 weeks non-stop. Straight.
Okay. So at every point, to clarify it,
exactly,
that part will be answered. But I want to find out, so is there a point where at every point in time, Form 1s will always have Form 2s and Form 3s still in school to even supervise and chaperone them?
There are points in time where there will be that alignment. There are points in time where there will be none. There are points in time that it will be Form 2s and Form 1s. There are points in time, because Form 3s are doing the regular, throughout the entire school year. Actually, throughout the entire school year, Form 1s will be supervised by them, they will be there. Form 2s are the ones who will leave at a point and come at a point. But Form 3 will be there during the whole school year until they finish their WASI and they leave. So is there
contingency for emergencies? Like if there was an outbreak or if there's a strike, one of these groups is going to suffer. Because if it happened in Team A's, strikes do happen. We can't, you can't teachers going on strike.
Yes.
I mean, teachers strike can happen whether you have double track or you have single
but
track.
in the dispensation of double track, where you're having some students being there, someone has finished their full term, and so they have the benefit of what was to be taught, and someone is now coming in and doesn't get everything they have to be taught because there was a strike.
The Form 1 student, nobody finishes their full term in Form 1 before another one comes in.
I mean, they'll finish at 7, they'll have half. So Team A would have done maybe their 41 days, and they'll be on their break.
And another one comes in, finish the whole
So semester. Team B would not probably have benefited the part of the syllabus that Team A should.
Those things are things that you don't predict. So if you want to factor that into everything...
But you have to look at it because that's the reality on the ground in Ghana.
No, if you strike, all teachers will go on strike. Not one track teachers will go on strike. If they go on strike, when they come back, you have to rearrange. That's what is done around the world. If teachers go on strike and it impacts learning, when they come, you change the whole semester, you change the whole schedule around.
And that will also probably affect when they finish school and become a backlog.
No. I will not use strike as a means. That's why we dialogue with teachers. Strike should never be factored into any plan. Otherwise, you will never be able to plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll never be able to plan if you talk about strike.
But there are other, anyway.
For parents at home, because when we started the free SHS last year, there was a lot of, it was a new program. People didn't know how to go about it. There were issues. There were issues with private schools. The private schools appealed that government to involve them in this free SHS because there have been clear indications that they've lost out on it. Of course, if I had the option to not pay, parents would definitely take their children to the free. So private schools are suffering. Is that going to be factored in at any point?
What private school? Do you know of any one of your friends who send their children to those private schools?
Yeah.
Yes, they're private schools.
GIS or
no private senior high schools.
Which ones?
I wouldn't want to mention.
Christian High,
you know them.
Has a long waiting list. They are not asking for students. Christian High has a long. They are not asking for students. Go to GIS. They are not asking for students. Go to Galaxy. They are not asking for students. None of the private schools. So yes, that's where we are coming to. You have 2 types of private schools in Ghana.
Yes.
You have the high-performing private schools, Morning Star, and other places where you pay a lot of money to go to. And they are not crying for students. If anything, they are getting more students. Last year, there were about 34 students who were accepted at Wesley Girls of all schools, top performing school. They came to the ministry and said, we are going to Galaxy. We are going. There's something going on in this country. People are not taking notice.
But
so the private schools, the other private schools you are talking about, used to be the private schools that accepted those who could not get into the public schools because their grades were so low and there was a cutoff. And after they were cut off, they had to go to look for loans. The poor had to go. It wasn't for those who were, well-to-do. These were schools for those who could not afford who were not afforded the opportunity to go to public schools. And the only thing that was open to them was to go and look for these private schools. I owned one. So I know what I'm talking about. I had to pay the fees of the students. They could not afford. I had to fundraise and pay because they could not afford. So when you hear private school, I will want you as a media to interrogate it further and look at their scores on the WASI. I'm not saying people shouldn't go there,
Right.
but I'm not saying it's a ready-made thing and somehow we don't care
about
no.
them. Okay,
I will rather as a policy maker open more spots at Wesley Girls, which is going to happen, for students to go there, than say that I want the easy way out. How am I going to determine who go to the private schools you're talking about?
Dr. Edichum, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but just a quick question. How does the parents figure out when their child is going to go in? For the child going in, getting admission in September, who goes in first in the first batch and who goes in second batch?
The Ghana Education Service will come with a schedule,
Okay.
I think next week. And the good news is that when we do the placement, it will be indicated. Okay. And this is how it may work out in some cases. For example, if you look at visual arts, in most schools it may be just one cohort. So you don't split them into 2 tracks.
Okay.
So if visual arts happen to be on track A, and your student is a visual arts student, that means they will be on track A. If home economics happens to be on track B, in a school where home economics is not large enough, then that will determine when you go to school. On the other hand, if you have a situation where the science students are so many in a particular school like Presec, then they will be split between the tracks, and therefore it will be a random selection as to who goes to track A and who goes to track B.
Finally, have you factored in parents who have children in the same school or are considering being picked into the same
Twins.
school, and how would it affect them?
Oh no,
if they don't get
those cases will really empower the schools to look at that option of considering siblings, so that a parent doesn't have to come to the school twice, drop this one off and pick
then
one
come
when this is
another
coming. I mean, these are human issues that we have to be concerned about.
Well, on that note, we'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum. He's the Deputy Education Minister in charge of basic and secondary education. We have been speaking about free SHS and the double track system. At least he's shed some light on how it would work, and hopefully when it sets off in September, we'll all come on board. On that note, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women.
Welcome back. Today we're going to be speaking to a very innovative lady who has transformed something that we see in traffic, we see by the roadside, into a very well-packaged delicacy. I'm sure lots of us know about dakwa or abile mamu, or there's so many other names that we call it. But in studio with us today, our career woman who is under the spotlight is Rosalind Delali Ashigui, who is going to talk to us about her life, her business journey, and all the other numerous wonderful things that she's been up to. Welcome to the studio, Rosalind.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for joining us.
With all the goodies, because
Yes,
we certainly
yes,
have to
I mean, we're going to
taste
fill up,
this.
yes.
I have to give you that disclaimer. But tell us about your life and how you finally got to this point where you have a company of your own and you're making this beautiful, well-packaged goods. How did you get there?
It wasn't easy. Yeah. I would say in 2012, then I used to work after school. I did my national service at the port, GPHA, and then later I decided to. I'm the type that always try doing business. I love business.
You like the
You like
money.
That's the word. I like money. So I see opportunities all around. I remember my friends who couldn't even make it to school. I always tell them that go to somebody, a friend who is a hairdresser, and then try helping the person. Throughout that time, you are also learning. It will get to a point when the person will teach you what to do or help me with this. So you are learning. So over the period, you have acquired knowledge by helping that person. You didn't pay for any fee, but then you supported. So I see opportunities all around every day. So sometimes when I was back in school, even I wanted to do business. When I got to school, I saw so many opportunities. I called my mom, I want to do business. I said, hey.
Don't stay that life there. Let's learn and come out with a degree. Finish.
Exactly. So he said, no, you've been doing this. Don't try it on campus. I said, okay. but I can't hold myself.
That's
So
you.
after first year, second year, I started business.
So what kind of business were you doing
Yeah,
even at that time?
On campus, I started clothing. Anything I wear, they say, oh, I like it and all stuff. So I decided to get more. So if I like your dress that is on a dummy, I'll buy 3. So I'll sell 2 and then I wear 1. So actually, I didn't pay for. So students were like, I was dressing, I didn't pay for. They pay for my dresses that I wear. And jewelries, when I put on, I love jewelries. I see opportunities on campus for unisex. So I just even get things on Sunday. They know Sundays my things are coming every 2 weeks. So sometimes the guys will be waiting for me. They want to be the first people to select. Sometimes they select
Like
and even
first
sell.
select.
Yeah. And then even sell to
their friends.
Their
Okay.
friends.
Wow.
At the arch
Of
onto
course.
it. So I did that. I said that money, if I put it in any bank, by the time within a year, I don't think I'll make much profit. So I was looking for any business that I would, I'll just invest in. I said, even if you don't give me anything, I prefer that you just keep the money running. Immediately I'm done. And I have this ambition that I'm going to work on my own. So immediately I started school. After my first semester, I applied for internship at Saveborn. So I started my internship. It wasn't mandatory, but I just want to learn the office practices and all that. And I just work and love it. And at the end, when I'm going back, they give me money. And
then you go and put the money into your business.
How did you know?
So I'm very interested in, is your family in entrepreneurship? Is there a family business? Do you have any examples around you? Because I mean, you don't just start being a business. Yes. It just happened.
So it just for me, it's me. I always see
no aunties, nothing.
No, my mom is a midwife.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in the quarters, hospital quarters. Okay. Yeah, so there was no business. But when I thought, she's very supportive. So when I even said I want to do this, okay, she'll just give in and then support me to do it.
Tell us how you got to is it Del's Bar from Del Chris Ventures? How did you come about that? I
love Joey.
Okay.
But it's something I don't normally like taking on the street. Okay. I'm the type that always critical about what I eat as well. So when I see it, I want to, but I can't because the way they will handle, I try to imagine they have a lot of story. Yes.
If we think about all the things
we won't be eating
at all.
Yes. The stories that goes around. They say I learned they do some things to rub and all kinds of stuff. So I went back to Hohwe, where my mom is. So, but I know how to do it. Okay. I'm from Anglonga. So I just asked my mom, I want to go into. He said, don't bring that thing again. He thought I was kidding. But I started. Okay. And then this is that time I left my job and I was left with 20 cedis. That was my last money. 20 Ghana cedis.
And you started this with that?
That's my startup capital.
So how much were you able to make out of that?
I made after everything, people, friends sampling that they haven't paid, they still owe me. I made 30 cedis at the end. Aww. So it was good. Yeah. So I went back.
You've just touched on something very important, because a lot of times when we talk to people about or we discuss entrepreneurship, then the first thing that comes to mind or the first objection is we don't have money. Where are we going to find the capital from? But you started a business with 20 Ghana cedis. Yeah. So there's obviously more to starting a business than just having money.
Yeah, I mentor some youth and I always tell them that you don't need money to start business. You need money to scale up. Okay. But starting business, you don't need money. And as I said, I was even coaching some women way back to how to start business. I have that I believe that you don't need money to start business, but you need money to scale up. So 20 cedis, I've done it. And then you keep yourself with people, the way you conduct yourself, they know you are trustworthy. So when I need money, the thing was moving to scale, and I need money, anybody I just call, I need 300 cities. Can you help me out? They do. And then immediately, I might tell you that in 2 weeks' time, immediately I get the money, I pay first.
So trust and credibility is important. Okay.
But tell us about the various, flavors, and if anyone can eat any of it at all.
Is there chocolate, please? Say the chocolate.
And can we taste? Maybe let me open the way you are collecting your things, like you run away with the
chocolate flavored one.
No, okay, so I see. Can I take them out of the pack?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I see millets.
Yes.
Would you want to tell us about that first?
All right. So millet, going into it, I realized that millet is nutrition. I remember people in my house, we don't take maize because we are blood group O positive. And I learned people are not eating according to their blood group. So we don't take, that means automatically we are out of the street one. So I tried other flavor grains. So I took millet, tried it, and we'll do sampling as usual, and people love it. I took brown rice, the one you are opening.
The one I'm about to taste.
Brown rice, and then brown rice. So we tried it, and people love it. They say, I prefer the brown rice. I know people who will always ask me for their millet, and then I realized that some are spicy. Some people now take very spicy. Some people don't. So why don't I differentiate it? So we have one that is normal, and then we have one that is spicy for my people. And then the diabetic too. They don't take sugar. They used to enjoy it in their olden days. Now they are old. They can't take sugar. So why don't I do sugar-free? And I tried it. So we have 5 varieties. We have the sixth one, but I haven't certified it, so I don't bring. That's the chocolate one that you said.
So while you're talking to me, Nanama is enjoying her.
Like seriously. Sorry.
I've got food in my mouth, I can't talk. But it tastes really good. And I don't think I'll be able to tell the difference. Between millet, maize, rice.
That's why, so you can't. No, it's a little. It's the same thing. Maybe the millet one tastes a bit of.
I'm sure you're the only one doing this in Ghana, right?
From all these years, yes, that it took me like to even certify it at Food and Drugs Board, like parameters and all that they have to give me, because no one has ever brought something of that sort to license.
So you talked about being employed and then leaving your job and starting a business. How many people have you employed now?
Currently, we have farmers. We actually farm the ingredients.
Okay.
We have farmers that we support. We train and support with the farm inputs. And then they farm the right grains for us. We realize that most of the grains in the market are not so awesome. So we have to control it from the farm.
So you're actually managing your whole supply chain?
Yeah, the supply chain. So, and then we have a particular grade of maybe maize that we use.
Indeed, you're a big woman.
And I think you just exemplify the fact that nothing is impossible once you set your mind to it. Unfortunately, you're running out of time. So I'm going to let you say your final words. What would you say to that young woman or that young man out there who's trying to start a business but doesn't know what to do? In 30 seconds. In
30 seconds, I would just say, when I was doing buy and sell, that was when there was a huge call in Ghana that we should promote, we should do our own things, we should consume our own thing. I prayed. I always prayed, what can I do? And God gave me this. So when you ask me how did I come about this kind of style, I'll tell it's mystery to me myself. And then the company is Delcris, it's Delali and Christ.
Okay.
Yeah. So you take you take your time search yourself what God has put in you. I think like now this is my call. I help other people. The farmers and all that. Go through yourself and then do something new out of context. Don't copy people.
Don't be a copycat.
You just do what is genuinely within you, because there are struggles. It's not that smooth for me, but because it's my passion, sometimes I go back and I can't say no to it. I keep on.
Wow. We've had a very, very exciting conversation with Rosalind, and we're very happy that we could have you in studio. Nana is so busy with her I don't even
Brown
know.
rice.
Brown rice.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
Del's
the flavor.
bar,
And there's so many other flavors that you can take advantage of and try. And by all means, if you're trying to think about or you're thinking about starting a business, she's just giving us the indication that you really don't need to think too much. Start from where you are and find your inspiration and innovate.
Please
take a
buy
quick
one
break.
Del's bar. It's
Yes,
delicious,
yes.
nutritious. Buy the whole pack, actually. We'll take a break.
And
We'll
don't
be
eat it alone. Share it with your family and
Please, you're
friends.
invited.
Thank you, Nana. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
So in recent times, many people are not eating well, and this has called for food supplements. There are some advantages and disadvantages of this. The fact is you need to have a good balanced diet, and then, as the name suggests, supplement what you're eating, but don't make it your main meal. Let's step out and talk to Dr. Nashile Dodo, who will tell us a bit more about food supplements, the importance and disadvantages of it.
Hello, welcome to the lifestyle segment on Captured by Women. I am Solace Rose Korte. In an era where we're so busy with our lives, we're trying to stay healthy and still run around and make some money, something extra has to probably be added to our diet. And so today we're talking about food supplements, and we're doing that with Dr. Nashile Dodo. She is a professional chiropractor. She's also a general practitioner, and we'll be picking her thoughts on this particular topic today. Thank you very much, Dr. Na, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Solace.
Okay. Now, why would you say that food supplements are necessary?
Okay. Food supplements, like the name implies, is something that we're adding on to what we're getting from our food. You know, like you rightly said, we're going around busy lives. We may not be eating a balanced diet, which includes nutrients from proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, and all that. So we have to get some of these nutrients from extra sources, and that is why we add on the supplements to add on to what we're getting, so that our overall health will be enhanced.
Yeah, but why are food supplements important? It seems to be something that a lot of young people especially are latching on to. Why?
Because one, it helps to boost your immunity. It helps to give you some extra energy. It helps to make you look younger. Yes, so you know, the stress and everything, sometimes your face starts to wrinkle and things like that, and some of these food supplements help to make you look younger and fresher. So that's why you see a lot of people latching onto these supplements. But I always say you should still take them in moderation. Too much of everything is bad, and so is too much of supplements as well.
So what particular vitamins are we looking at supplementing? Which ones are the most important, especially when you're talking about bone formation and things like that?
So for me, my favorite, all-time favorite, is omega-3 fish oil, because all our body cells are surrounded by what we call the lipid bilayer. Now that lipid bilayer is what protects the cell and prevents the contents from leaking out, because you know, oil keeps the whole cell solid. So when you, as you age, sometimes this lipid bilayer can start to wear thin if you're not eating good oils, if you don't have a lot of good vitamins and minerals. So taking omega-3 fish oil goes a long way to maintain the cells and its contents. I also strongly recommend calcium and magnesium. As you remember from all the vitamin songs, calcium is what makes our bones strong. So for both children and adults, we need calcium throughout our lifestyles. When you see the little old women whose spines are so bent forward, they have what we call osteoporosis. And osteoporosis is due to a softening of the bone, which is usually because of lack of calcium. So I strongly recommend calcium supplements, especially once you start hitting the 40s and 50s, when the bones start to degenerate. Calcium, magnesium helps to strengthen. And then magnesium is, think of it as a muscle relaxer. So there are pharmaceutical drugs which serve as muscle relaxers, but I strongly recommend magnesium instead to help your muscles, the ligaments, all the soft tissue to relax. Because again, as we're growing, you start getting the arthritic pain from spondylosis here and there. Calcium and magnesium helps to bring that down. And then also I recommend vitamin D, which unfortunately we don't get a lot of, because a lot of us get out from our homes, drive to the office, stay in there all day, come back into our cars and drive back home. So we end up lacking vitamin D, which is essential for a lot of our body's systems to function well. So vitamin D will be the last one that I strongly recommend.
Okay. Food supplements, one might think, oh, I might not necessarily need a doctor's, advice. I can just go to the pharmacy and pick one up. How bad can this get for you?
Very, very, very.
Take them for granted. Like,
we
do.
Vitamin
C, I just buy it and take it.
Yes. Very, very important point you brought up, because I have patients who, when they start their treatment, they bring me all their drugs and their supplements, and half of the time they're taking two of the same thing and they don't even realize. So no, it's very, very, very important you first speak to your doctor about it, because some supplements can interfere with your drugs. Some supplements you may be allergic to. I can't even emphasize more that you need to speak to a doctor about it before starting any supplement or any type of therapy at all, because there are always side effects too, and you need to know what these side effects are, understand them before you go on any of these supplements.
Okay, so what would be your word of advice generally regarding food supplements and how they should be taken?
I would recommend that, most importantly, make sure you're eating a balanced diet. So make sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables in, your water, and then you can add a little bit of the rice and the banku and the fufu and all that. But most importantly is your fruits and vegetables. And make sure that you're teaching your children how to incorporate these foods into their daily lives as well. A lot of the times kids don't even know that they need to eat a fruit a day. So by the time they're teenagers, you want to teach them, and it's very difficult. But if you as a parent or as a mom, you're teaching your kids to have these habits right from their childhood, then by the time they grow up, they already know these things. So that the little bit of what is left, then you can add a supplement to it to give you the overall nutritional benefits that you would need. So let's not get hooked on the supplements. Most importantly, make sure you eat a very balanced diet.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Na Ashley Dodo. Like she said, most importantly, you need a very balanced diet. That is the key to a good health. My name is Solis Rose Porter. I've been spending time with Dr. Na Ashley Dodo. She is the CEO of Nova Wellness Center, a chiropractic center. She's also a general practitioner, and she's been talking to us about food supplements, the benefits, the pros, of course, and the cons. That's all for this segment. Bye-bye.
Well, we've had a very interesting show today. For one, we've been able to understand clearly what the dual track system of SHS is going to be about. But we've sadly also had to pay tribute to our former Vice President, Pakwesi Emisa Arthur, who was buried this weekend. In addition to that, we had the privilege to have in studio with us Rosalind Atrigui, who talked to us about her business and her journey as a businesswoman. And we had the opportunity to also look at the issue of supplements and how they are very useful to us, but yes, may pose some disadvantages to our health. We hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed being here. I've been here today with Nana Ma, and this show has been proudly sponsored by Yamvita. We also want to appreciate GTP for sponsoring us with our attire, and CJ Clothing for making my beautiful dress. We hope you'll make a date with us same time next week here on Captured by Women. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Captured by Women is brought to you by Yum Vita, a delicious way to grow.